There's a big tax reform fight happening right now in the Senate. And one issue that kind of popped up and is a little bit surprising is the issue of further increasing the child tax credit. And it's actually being championed by one senator in particular, Republican Marco Rubio. And he's found himself kind of crossways with the White House and some conservatives as a result. Senator Rubio, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Exciting times with the tax reform on the horizon. Finally, we're moving forward to a real debate. I talked to Mitch McConnell earlier tonight, and he thinks he's going to be able to get this done. He's very optimistic. Tonight, the Wall Street Journal has an editorial titled "The Rubio-Schumer Amendment. Florida Republican tries to blow up the Senate tax reform." What are you up to? You're going to blow up the Senate tax reform.
They're wrong about it. Let me tell you what it is. It's very simple. It's a child tax credit, and it's designed to help working people. Who are the people that would benefit from this? Firefighters, members of the armed services, teachers, construction workers, welders.
They get a child tax
credit.
So
what it is that a lot of people, because they make $40,000 a year, okay, they don't get to fully benefit from the child tax credit because they don't have a lot of income tax liability, but they pay payroll tax. They're the working people in this country that have been ignored and forgotten. They're the people that elected President Trump because they've been not just ignored but disrespected. And all this says is you're going to get to keep more of your own money. That's what the amendment does. They actually say it's a disincentive to work. That's ridiculous. You can't even get the tax credit if you're not working. So this is people making between $20,000 and $50,000 or $60,000 would benefit greatly. And by the way, if you look at the states that would benefit the most, I think it's 18 of the top 20 states voted for the president in the 2016 election. Why? Because working people raising children are the people that voted to elect the president with a very clear message that they sent us here to fight for them, not for the moneyed interests that control Washington.
So I think President Trump initially wanted 15, then it went to 20 as the corporate tax cut. But now, under your plan, it would go up to 22.
On the corporate side, a 22% corporate tax rate is 13 points lower than what it is now. Difference between 2022, it would still make us third among the G7 nations. It would still put us below the global average. There is no difference in growth between 20 and 22, especially when you factor
Numbers
in.
Don't matter? You're saying
they do matter, but not in terms of growth. You're not going to see any less growth at 22 than you would at 20. It still puts us lower than the world. It's still ranked as third among the G7. And by the way, there's another way to pay for it. I'm open to
$100 billion or so that would
about
cost?
$80 billion.
Yeah, they said $100 billion.
Well, here's why. Because we want to index it to inflation, but it's not our money. It's not the government's money. It's the working people's money. These are welders. These are police officers.
But they're getting a rebate for children, having children. What about people who don't have kids, who are not making money? What about them? Why don't they get a break?
But they also don't have the expense of raising children.
Right.
What we're saying here is you are raising children. If you make $50,000 a year and you're raising 3 kids, that money doesn't go nearly as far as if you're not.
Right, but they're not paying taxes either for the most part. They're not really, they don't have much of a tax liability. I think that's what they're saying.
Well, but they still get, they still qualify for all sorts of
other things. Will you blow up the deal on this? Will you be willing to blow the deal up if they don't go to 22%?
Well, I don't want to blow up a deal because if there is no tax reform, there is no vehicle by which we can fix this. And it already does go up to $2,000. I have never talked about conditioning anything. I am saying this makes our tax reform more pro-worker, which is where we need to be as a country.
Speaking of workers, you want to do a DACA deal before the end of the year.
It depends.
We would like to if possible. Do you think Donald Trump was elected to do a DACA amnesty before something like Obamacare repeal?
Well, I think it.
Do you think that's why the people turned out to vote for him?
We tried to do Obamacare repeal. As you saw, it failed, unfortunately, because we couldn't get our conference together. Here's what I've said. There's a difference between DACA and the DREAM Act. If what they want to do, and the president's expressed an openness to this, is to do something like DACA, but constitutionally that's temporary and acts as a bridge towards something more permanent, that's one thing. If what they want is to make a permanent change to immigration policy, it must be accompanied by permanent changes to security.
McConnell said he's open to ending chain migration, E-Verify, mostly what Tom Cotton and Perdue was talking about tonight. He said I mean, chain migration is really the problem. Are you going to commit to chain migration, ending the chain
and we have in the
migration?
past. We've said that it should be limited to immediate family. We've always said it should be a merit-based system of immigration. We've always said that we need border security, including a wall, and the entry-exit tracking system, E-Verify. These are all things we've long supported. The debate is, do you link it? The Democrats don't want to. Do you link it to anything else in immigration?
Trump's election is always a mandate to change this approach and really focus, as you said, on the American worker who's been hammered by lousy immigration policies.
Well, and again, that's why I support a merit-based immigration system, which, by the way, is also a reality in the 21st century. Our economy is fundamentally different than it was in 1950.
The Roy Moore issue is out there, obviously. He's up in the polls. He may very well win this race. What happens if he wins and he comes to Washington? The people of Alabama have made their own call. It's not our call, it's their call.
Right.
Are you in favor of an ethics investigation that could perhaps lead to 2/3 of the members expelling him from the Senate?
Well, first of all, there is an ethics investigation. That's the first thing. I don't even know how you initiate that.
Senator McConnell also was very open to that.
Well, assuming that happens, and people would obviously make their decisions based on the facts that emerge from it. I think what's complicating about it, and I've said this publicly before, to be frank, I find the accusations against him to be credible, and I don't think anything he has said or done in the last couple of weeks has helped him in that regard. That said, this information is before the voters of Alabama, and if they elect him, and then you, as a Senate, have ethics hearings to remove him from office or something like that, that gets more complicated. That's a little bit more difficult, because voters will have this information before them when they vote for him, if in fact he's elected.
This issue of government shutdown. Chuck Schumer has said in the past, 2013, no government shutdown for policy. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you think he would actually shut the government down if he doesn't get his dreamer DACA?
I don't know. I don't think it would be very popular. I don't think that I don't think you can or should shut the government of the United States down over that issue. I just don't think you can or should. I think there will be a massive revolt, even perhaps within his own conference.
And finally, this House slush fund on the victims of, for a bunch of things, asbestos victims, settlements. Is there any fund like that in the Senate that you're aware of?
I don't know. I'm not aware of it. There probably is. We've never used it, obviously, but I think that should be made public.
So you're in favor,
taxpayer money.
And you'll say tonight that these people should be unmasked. We should know who these people are in the House who settled, or the Senate if there's such a fund.
Absolutely.
And we should know who they are.
It's public money. It's not their money. One thing is if you settled with your own money, but if it's taxpayer money, taxpayers deserve to know.
It's great to have you on tonight.
It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.